Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's episode of Advanced Bass Fishing, and appreciate you guys swinging by the channel today. And guys, today we're going to be talking about one of my least favorite lures, but a bass catching lure. People love to fish this thing. It catches tons of fish. I know it catches tons of fish. I just don't like to fish it, and that's the Alabama rig. I've caught a ton of fish on an Alabama rig, and the reason I sort of have a bad attitude about it is it used to be legal in the tournaments back when, it very first came out, and I did not like fishing it because it took away every other technique. If you weren't fishing an Alabama rig, you couldn't hardly compete in the tournament, and I like to do other stuff. I just didn't want to go out there and throw an Alabama rig all the time, so I pretty much relegated it to just fishing it for fun. I didn't use it in tournaments much. Eventually it got banned in the Bassmaster tournaments, which is good. But regardless, guys, the A-Rig is an incredible bass catcher. And in today's video, I want to give you guys some tips and advice on how to fish an A-Rig and take advantage of it. And also, guys, I'll put the A-Rig link in my Tackle Warehouse link in the description of this video. If you guys would like to pick up a few A-Rigs after the video and some of the swim baits I'm going to talk about, you can use that link there. And real quick, guys, anybody interested in booking an on-the-water lesson with me, just go to my Facebook page, Randy Blaukat Professional Angler. Shoot me a private message. I'm doing a lot of on-the-water wintertime jerkbait lessons now, so appreciate you guys taking advantage of that. Okay, this Alabama rig, guys, it is, when I first saw it years ago, the first time I saw it, it's like, I said, there's no way a fish is going to hit that. In fact, I saw the first Alabama rig before anybody knew about it. I was at a sports show, I can't remember where it was now. I think it was somewhere in Tennessee. And the guy that invented the Alabama rig was there, and he showed it to me. And I was trying to be polite to him, and I was like, man, that's pretty interesting looking. But I remember walking off and say that thing is not going to catch a fish. Sure enough, that fall, Paulie Elias wins that FLW tournament on Lake Guntersville on an Alabama rig. And that he got at that very sports show I was at, and ever since then it just took off, and it has been a dominant force in fishing, and it still is today. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about how you want to fish it and some techniques that I like to use. First of all, you've got two different types of Alabama rigs available. You've got the ones like I've got right here that don't have a spinner on it, and then you have the ones that have spinners on it. Now, a lot of people like the ones that have spinners on it, but guys, I've caught more fish on the Alabama rigs that do not have spinners. And I think that one of the reasons is that everybody throws ones with spinners on it. So, they both work, but in my opinion, I like the ones that don't have spinners. Sometimes if it's like dark and cloudy and windy and rainy, then I will use a spinner for more added flash. But I just catch more fish on a one without, the spinners on it. And also, guys, I want a small diameter Alabama rig. Some of these Alabama rigs are like twice the size for larger swim baits, but the ones that I like, and I catch good fish on them and a lot of fish on them, is a small one. And I like to run, small swim baits on them, like this is a 2.5 inch Kitech, 1/8 ounce Okashira jig heads on it. That's the setup that I like right here on an A-rig. So that's the way that I set it up. But the main thing I want to talk about today is where you want to fish it, how you want to fish it. Also, with an A-rig, one of the things that I suggest, guys, is throwing it on a flipping stick. Even if you throw a downsized A-rig, a flipping stick is a better tool to throw an A-rig because you can throw it farther, you get a better hook set, you can control and work the bait better. Since you're not putting any action on the bait, really, it doesn't matter throwing a heavier rod. I usually throw it on a flipping stick with 20-pound test Seaguar and VizX line most of the time. Okay, where do you want to fish an A-rig? Let's talk a little bit about wintertime fishing. Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. This is a wintertime fishing tip I want to give you. When the water temperature's in the 40s and 50s, like it is right now, you can pretty much catch fish on an A-rig anywhere that you catch them on any other type of lure. If you're throwing a wiggle wart down a rocky bank, you could probably catch them on an A-rig. If you're throwing a jerkbait on a main lake point, probably catch them on an A-rig. So the areas that you fish them in are no different than any other, lure category that you're gonna fish. So that's what makes it really versatile. And a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people think of an A-rig as something maybe that you fish a little bit deeper, specifically like off points and stuff. But guys, I've caught a lot of fish on an A-rig, throwing it like a spinner bait, throwing it like on the edge of lay down trees and stuff. But in the wintertime, the places that I like to fish an A-rig are in and around main and secondary points. Not necessarily maybe on the point itself, but like those areas leading up to the points, especially if they have a little bit steeper bank. Here's what my ideal A-rig situation is. Let's say I got a bluffy type steep bank in a major creek arm, and I look in front of me, and about 100 yards up there, I've got a point where this bluff comes to a point. From 100 yards before you get to that point to the point itself and just around the point is going to be prime A-rig wintertime bass fishing. So what I'll do is, based upon the water clarity, A-rig works good in a lot of different water visibilities. I prefer it in the wintertime in that 3 to 4 foot visibility range. I'll cast it up there shallow, and what I do is I let it go to the bottom. And once it gets to the bottom, I'll snap it off the bottom like that, and then I'm just slow rolling it. And let me give you a little tip that will get you a lot more bites on an A-rig. When you cast your A-rig out like that, let it go to the bottom and then snap it. And the reason I want it to go to the bottom, guys, is I want to keep my A-rig close to the bottom in the wintertime. I don't want it halfway through the water column. I don't want it 4 feet off the bottom. I want the A-rig within a couple feet off the bottom anywhere that I'm fishing in the wintertime. That's where those fish are going to be at. So if I cast it out on a main lake point and the water's 10 foot deep, I'm going to let it go to 10 feet deep, and then I'll start reeling. When you're reeling an A-rig, make your cast and point your rod tip right at the A-rig, and then you start reeling like this. And after you reel it for 5 or 6 cranks like that, give it a sharp half turn like that. So you're reeling like this, reeling. Let me get a reel here that doesn't have anything on it, and I'll show you. Okay, you cast it out there, so you're reeling like this with the rod tip pointed straight at it, and then you go just like that. Two or three cranks like that, and sometimes I'll go like that. And what that does is the A-rig's coming through the water like this, and all of a sudden, when you do that quick half turn, it darts like that, and then you start reeling it, darts again like that. And most of the time, as soon as you do that half turn like that and you start reeling, they pound it. And I can't catch hardly anything on an A-rig. If I throw it out there and just reel it straight like that, I don't catch hardly anything. Probably 90% of the bass I catch are after that quick half turn like that. Because these fish, this A-rig is so gaudy and so big looking, fish will track an A-rig and they'll follow the thing and they'll get that far behind that A-rig and not bite it. And when you do that half turn and it starts to like dart away from them, it triggers that instinct, reflex in the fish, and they'll come out and grab it. So when you're reeling it like this, say you're reeling it down like that and you do your half turn, also after you do a half turn a couple times, make sure the bait sinks back down and gets the bottom and started up again. So what I'll usually do during the course of a cast, say if I make a long cast with an A-rig, I'm gonna stop and let it go back to the bottom probably about 4 or 5 times. And like I said, on a long cast, I may do 25 half turns with it. And it makes a huge difference. I mean, I have experimented with this in detail, and that retrieve that I just showed you right there is probably the biggest tip that you'll ever get on an A-rig as far as to generate more bites with it. A couple of different things in here. Another thing that you might want to do that helps out is if you've got, your baits on here, 4 or 5 baits or whatever your state, there's different state laws as far as the number of baits and hooks. But your primary bait that you have, it's normally a longer wire. When you have your primary bait on there, try to make sure your primary bait is maybe a little bit different, like a different color or just a little bit different size. And one of my favorite things to do is I'll put a little bit of chartreuse on the tail of my primary swim bait that's on there. So it gives it just a little bit more color than the other ones there. And it actually will attract them to that particular bait, because on a lot of A-rigs across states across the country, you can't have hooks on all of them. Like here in Missouri, we can only have 3 hooks. So you can use as many, baits as you want, but you can only have 3 hooks. So in order to get the fish to hit one of those baits that has a hook on it, you got to make the bait stand out a little bit. So on your primary baits that have hooks on it, try a different color or a different size or a different style of swim bait. That's really going to help out. But anyway, guys, that's just a few basic A-rig tips. It's pretty easy bait to fish. The thing that is the biggest pain in the butt for an A-rig is actually rigging the thing up. It's putting the jig heads on it, putting the the baits on it. If you break one off, it takes forever to build another one up. That's another reason I don't like it. It's because if you break one off, you're going to spend the next 15 minutes rigging another one up. But they catch good fish, man. They do. They catch a lot of fish and they catch good ones. So anyway, guys, now's the time to throw it. Wintertime, when that water's in the 40s and 50s, is a great time to fish an A-rig. And finally, I'll leave you with this. If I could give you one perfect scenario for an A-rig when you want to fish it, I would want water temperatures in the low to mid 50s, number one. I would want water visibility between, say, 3 to 4 feet. I would want some type of a cloudy, windy day. So perfect situation. If you ask me, Randy, give me the perfect situation. Give me 3.5 foot of visibility. Give me 52-degree water temperature. Give me a overcast sky. Give me a south wind at about 15 miles an hour. And I can promise you, in those situations like that, you'll catch some good ones on an A-rig. So hope it helps out, guys. I'll talk later.